Yeah.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of NJPW Pro Wrestling Review. I'm your co-host, Melbo. That's your co-host, Andre. Andre, how are we doing this week?
I am doing pretty darn good. Especially after getting to watch so much New Japan and so much Stardom over the last while, I can't not be happy. And watching some great AEW, there's so much good wrestling going on right now. I got to attend a really good Raw that hopefully we're going to talk about soon on Chop Talk. So wrestling's been good to me lately. So I can't be nothing but happy about pro wrestling. So.
What a time to be a wrestling fan, hey? It seems to be really exploding back onto the market, and I personally love it.
Me too. So this week we are going to be talking about the New Japan Pro Wrestling Burning Spirit Tour, which was actually, I think I had 3 shows cut out from it due to the it wasn't a full-on hurricane over there, but the tropical storm that hit on September 18th, 19th, and also eliminated the show on the 21st because it was just trying to deal with aftermath. So it was slightly disappointing in that sense that we lost 3 nights, but we still got the majority of what we would have got on those couple nights with a dog cage match. Yeah, that still happened, even though I was hoping it wouldn't, but it did. So we are going to get to that in just a little bit. But we are going to start off with I am on the wrong slide. Oh, that is not good. I am not a professional. All right, you saw the entire card, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we are going to start off with September 2nd on night 1. It is Ryusuke Taguchi, Master Wato, and Jado. That stupid grin, it bothers me. Versus the United Empire, TJP, Francisco Akira, the current junior tag team champions, and the debuting Gideon Grey.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. Going through this whole thing, Gideon Grey was one person who we had both discussed that we were interested in seeing what it was that they would do in the whole thing. This was kind of our first introduction to him. He walked out there, and I was like, "Wow, that is an unattractive mamma jam."
Oh, and Kevin Kelly wasn't shy to give us his opinion on Gideon Grey's face. So let's just say that, and body and choice of gear, he was not really nice when he's speaking about Gideon Grey.
No, and I'm not going to be honest. I mean, based on what I saw in his match and the matches that subsequently happened on the Burning Spirit Tour here, I kind of was sitting there going, why did the United Empire in all its infinite crown and glory look at this man and go, yes, he matches the energy of Francesco Akira. He matches that energy of TJP, of the Great O'Khan, of Jeff Cobb. I'm honestly very, very underwhelmed with the performance that Gideon Grey has put on, not just in this match, but in the entire tour. Although I will say, very functional manager in the corner of his team.
When he was been at ringside as managing in the couple matches that I did see him manage, I thought he was very functional. And the way that the United Empire works, and that the fact that they don't use outside interference, but their people coach them to be better by being there, I thought he was functional. But the main story is what Kevin Kelly made sure to tell us was Gideon Grey has been funding the United Empire, and that's why he essentially bought his way into the United Empire. That is why he's here, is because he's giving them money.
I mean, money will really get you anywhere. And I do remember Kevin has been mentioning, Gideon Gray has all of this training that he's gotten one-on-one instead of going to training facilities. So he does have a plethora of knowledge, which would actually make him very invaluable as a manager to the United Empire. So long as he stays in that kind of capacity, I actually don't mind him being a part of the United Empire. But if I can be honest, like seeing him wrestle was kind of like, oh, wow, wow.
And not to compare him to Jado or Gato, because Jado and Gato are to me phenomenal in-ring talents. Like they both are veterans. I think he's going to be to the Empire what they are to Tama Tonga Tangaloa and TJ White and the Bullet Club, as their seconds. He's going to be everybody's second. He's going to be the guy that's there on the outside. But when you need him for a tag match, he's going to get in and do undercard tags, things like that. But I think mainly he's going to be playing at Gato Jado, where he is there as a manager, but who gets in the ring every now and again and wrestles with people. I think is more or less what you're going to see from him. But the other thing I want to talk about is the ongoing feud with 6 or 9 and the United Empires, TJP and Francisco Akira. I think they really built this feud through the whole tour very, very well to lead into an incredible match on the final night.
I have to agree. And they've done a phenomenal job on this Burning Spirit tour of showing just how well TJP and Francesco Akira work together. They almost have that, as I've always said about LIJ here, they're almost effortless flowability within the ring to just transition without communicating into everything that they're doing. TJP and Francesco Akira were exactly like this. And I don't want to say that Taguchi and Wato weren't in comparison based on, how much longer they have been working together. But when we look at the two teams, I definitely felt that it definitely showed exactly why Akira and TJP are the champions.
And to that note, TJ and Akira only first tagged back in June when they won the titles. That was their first ever tag together. They won the championships. This is only the first time this is only the first time they defended the titles.
Correct.
And this is only the second time the final night's will be the only time the first time they defend titles. They've only had like 2 or 3 or 4 matches together on New Japan Strong and some shows over in America. Is where they've been working together, and this is only their, I think, second match in New Japan as a team in New Japan proper in Japan. So it says something to that team. But we're gonna move on to the main. What was the main event of that first night was Toru Yano, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the Rainmaker Okada taking on the team TMDK, made up of, as I like to call them, big teats. And I love hearing Kevin and Chris say that. Shane Haste, who guest member on the Smosh YouTube channel, and Jonah. Yeah. Shane Haste is the fiance of one of the girls on Smosh, and so he does frequently appear on that channel, and I love watching him when I see him on there because wrestling and my comedy world take over. I love it. But this match, but the whole every night it was some combination of Okada and Tanahashi facing off against some combination of TMDK with different partners. I know Okada had a couple times had Great Bash Heel as his tag team partner for his matches going against these guys, and I really loved the showcase that it gave to TMDK, especially Shane Haste and Bad Dude Tito. And it really gave them, those two, a highlight, working main events on most of the nights. These guys and Shane Haste only making his return to New Japan since I think they said 2013 or 14, maybe 2015 last time he was there before he signed to go to NXT. So to be getting main event spots throughout most of the tournament or most of the tour is a big thing, in my opinion, for these guys.
Yeah, I have to agree. During the G1, we were noticing that Big Teats there was getting a lot of attention. And you could tell by how excited the crowd was when he would come out before they could actually cheer for him, how much of an impression he had already made on them. To have him and Shane Haste both be very much highlighted and to show just how much of not only just wrestlers they are, but entertainers they are. I just find myself overly entertained with just how they banter back and forth with their opponents. Sometimes knowing that their opponents have zero idea what they're saying, but just for the benefit of us, they do control the energy of the matches. And when I first started seeing Jonah, I had mentioned to you I was very underwhelmed. I didn't think that he was very interesting. His team really does bring out a different almost side of him, a different persona that is actually really super interesting. And I can't wait to see more of this team in New Japan.
As you said about Jonah, I was a fan of him in NXT. Not like the biggest fan in the world of him, but I was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I found him very interesting. But then when he went to New Japan Strong, I was a little bit underwhelmed about his run there. But when the G1 has really revolutionized who he is as a character, the way they're doing the camera work for when he does his stomp in the ring, it that harkens back to his days in NXT. It really shows that they're really getting behind this guy, and like the way him and Okada, like their teams traded wins throughout all the nights of the tour, but they really showcased the power and wondering how does Okada overcome.
I have to agree. And it was very much so a dominant kind of Jonah thing. Whenever they were picking up a win, it was usually a dominant win by Jonah in some way, shape, or form. I think it was the last night, Okada actually did manage to almost pick up Jonah, like he was going to actually do a slam on him.
He actually got it. We are going to talk about the match, but he did get a scoop slam in that match.
Oh, he did get it? Because I remember seeing him get up and just fall right back down to take
that was the first try, but he did get it. We'll talk about that when we get to that. We will get to that. We were going to go over the whole of the final night, but just the build between these two and showing that Okada is really struggling with the only man that beat him in the G1, I think has been a great feud.
I have to agree. I look forward to seeing how it turns out.
So we're going to move on to what was the night 2, September 5th. And it was the first time in Japan that crowds could cheer at not the first time overall, but the first time at a New Japan event, because I think another company had gotten permission early, a few weeks earlier.
Right, yeah.
But this was the first, because this had to have social distance seating and everything, and only certain sections of the venue were actually to cheer. But you could, they were saying other sections started cheering. It just happened. But to hear the crowd sing Kaze ni Nare for the first time in over 2 years,
chills.
Brought tears to my eyes.
Same.
Ugh.
I nearly started bawling, and my partner was there with me, and I'm just like, this is the greatest moment ever. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. So I just nearly punched Bushi off my shoulder there.
Like, don't get me wrong, I've heard American crowds sing Kaze ni Nare at multiple shows over the last year, but it's just not the same. It's a whole different monster when you hear that. And they were the passion in that Kaze ni Nare was chef's kiss. But I will say this, that crowd was chanting Bad Dude Tito at points. That's how excited they were just to be able to chant and cheer at professional wrestling. But that's also, I think, a huge mark for Bad Dude Tito, that he's over enough that this crowd is willing to cheer for him. So it's a huge mark. And Minoru Suzuki did get the win in the end, because come on, how could you not see the man get the win with the Gotch style pile driver, baby?
You can't have the boogeyman return to New Japan without having the boogeyman's. Oof. Minoru Suzuki, man, I missed. You're absolutely right. It's totally different to go from a North American crowd where we really haven't had that restriction, both in indie shows and in the larger production shows here, to watching New Japan in just silence, pretty much, minus the commentary, which you can usually hear on the auditorium camera. If you're not listening to the English commentary, you can certainly hear Milano and his partner screaming in Japanese. But
see, the fact is, there not every show from here forward had cheering, though. There was a bunch of shows, including the final night, there was all clapping, and you could actually really notice at the end of that show. But I will point that out when we get there. But it's only certain shows are going to have cheering, and which is slightly disappointing. But the fact that they got it back was huge for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go on to another match on that show. And it was a 6-man tag with Sonata, Naito, and Takahashi taking on Despy, El Desperado, Zack Sabre Jr., and Taichi. And I think what they've been doing with Sabre Jr. and Naito's feud throughout, again, they're building feuds going forward because as they announced, one of the nights for, I think it's night 2 of Royal Quest, it's going to be Zack Sabre Jr. and Naito facing off, and we'll get to a little add-on to that later in the show. And then there's another feud brewing in Taichi and Sonata, which I think was just so wonderful in the way it culminates. And again, we will get to that, but just to see these two teams throughout the tournament, or throughout the tour, getting to feud with each other and in different people in different matches. So there's different ways. It wasn't the exact same match every night. Unlike House of Torture, it wasn't the same match every night. And it just, everything they did and how Sabre is reacting to Naito, and then the way he's interacting with Sonata, and even to that, especially this night, how he interacted with Hiromu, I think were really great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have to agree, and I'm not going to complain about watching, Sonata do push-ups with Taichi to try to prove anything. I'm not going to complain about that. What I am going to complain about, however, is how Sonata kind of looks like a hot Asian Santa Claus with his weird beard thing.
Yeah, that beard's growing a bit too big in my opinion. But
yeah, we need to trim that down a little bit. But I do have to agree, the kind of funness that's been kind of going on between Sonata and Taichi, I feel like it's kind of carried over from the G1. I feel like it kind of started in and around that area and has kind of blossomed into what it is that we're seeing now, where it's not like Zack Sabre Jr. and Naito, where they're like almost angry with each other and kind of like beating on each other. It's almost like a gentleman's brawl, if you will.
A respect feud.
Yeah, where they're kind of like almost a posh kind of thing, I would say. And I'm not going to complain about it. I think it's great entertainment. It still shows off both of their athleticism while allowing them to have some kind of fun together, and not be all like serious iron fingers and stuff like that.
Please never that happen again. Yeah, so I again, the only negative I have to this tour was seeing El Desperado and Hiromu. And again, I have no negatives against them, but I'm trying to figure out where each man is going for the next while, because you have Taiji Ishimori locked up with his feud with Kushida right now. That's obviously changing due to Kushida getting foot and mouth disease. But it's just, both men are doing great work, and I'm very much enjoying both of them. But it seems like both are kind of lost.
Especially after the last couple of years that these two have had, Hiromu winning, was it the Best of the Super Juniors, carrying around the trophy. Desperado, he was a double champion for a while, holding the IWGP Junior Championship as well as the Tag Championship with Yoshinobu Kanemaru. To see them almost, as you said, floundering in a sea of other feuds that are kind of going on, it kind of feels like they are kind of being pushed into the background a little bit. That being said, though, it might be almost a good thing to kind of hold them back a little bit until after maybe the World Tag League kind of gets underway there, so that they can start focusing on the next tour, which I believe is going to be a junior.
Well, the World Tag League is going to have the Super Juniors and the World Tag League together. So it's going to have the Super Junior Tag and the Super Junior Tag League and the World Tag League. So I'm guaranteeing you're going to get Despy and Hiromu in that Super Junior Tag League. But I wonder where they're going. That is just the biggest question. I think they're just in a holding pattern till that. There's one other tour. There's an autumn tour coming before it. I hope to see something more. Again, I'm not criticizing because I enjoy watching. I just want to see a direction for Hiromu mainly. And would I like to see him maybe move up to the heavyweight division and be Shingo's partner in the World Tag League? I think that would be awesome, in my opinion. But We'll see.
Who's going to partner with this little guy?
But we're gonna move on to one of the matches from September 6th, night 3, and it was from Romo and Shingo taking on Kenta and El Fantasmo, and the main feud is Shingo Takagi taking on El Fantasmo, and it's been an interesting feud to say the least.
Yeah, to say the absolute least. Shingo's daddy. I mean, interesting T-shirt to say the absolute least. The haircut.
ELP Daddy, I think, is the shirt, and so, like, to see a couple of things he did on a couple of nights, because I think he literally had like putting like the shirt on him and like making him be a baby at one point. It was just it's almost a joke feud, and it makes me a little bit sad.
But knowing ELP and knowing how he is, this is exactly the kind of shenanigans that I do expect out of him. That Shingo is kind of taking it with such, I don't want to say grace, but I don't know what other word we could really use for it.
It's as much grace as you can say in this situation, but
as a former IWGP heavyweight champion,
it's all going to lead to a King of Pro Wrestling provisional championship match, which in reality, the KOPW championship, other than since Takagi's won it, I've actually respected it a little more because of some of the stuff him and Taichi were doing with it. But in the end, it's kind of a joke. It really is, and you can see them kind of going towards more the jokey end of it in this feud, right? So it makes me sad because of how good the KOPW was, and now it's back to being the sideshow.
Yeah. And we got to remember that the KOPW championship trophy thing was created by Yano, and Yano is kind of the epitome of joke.
Well, technically it was created by Okada. Okada technically was the one that came up with this.
That's true, but Yano was the
Yano was the initial winner for the first 2 years, so yeah. But
I mean, we have had some less jokey winners in that before, or since then, like Shingo Takagi, like Chase Owens, like Taichi.
Chase to a point, though.
I'm interested to see, because the KOPW championship, it does have special, things that you can, like special, what's the word?
Stipulations.
That's the one. That you can put onto it. I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point what they're building it up to be with the Shingo's daddy and him putting things on him, subsequently Shingo bending ELP over and giving him a little bit of a spanking the other night. I suspect that the feud that they're building is going to end up having some kind of something in how the match ends up. I don't know if I'm excited about it yet, but I do like both of these competitors. I have confidence in them. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a good match in the end, but we'll see what happens, is more or less.
And let's just also throw a quick shout out to Kenta and his brilliant marketing scheme. How amazing that nothing gets people more interested in your book than you just smashing them in the face with it.
It's not just a book, it's a weapon. Just remember, it's not just a book, it's a weapon.
And it's a series of paper cuts. The creativity that he's had in promoting his book, getting the crowd involved, getting his partners involved.
His
good job.
Involved.
Be like Kenta.
Be like Kenta when you're advertising your book. So we're gonna move on to what was night 4, and actually the third to last night, due to a lot of the tropical storm stuff that happened, and it was the Blue Justice anniversary show, and I only got to see this only a few days ago because it was held off of New Japan World Zone, but it is on there. And man, this ended up being the main event, and boy, howdy, did we get quite a match out of this. Quite a match out of this whole. It's hard to speak. I'm having problems talking right now. But heck, did we get a match out? Yeah, had such a good match, and because it really showed how good Blue Justice is. Yuji Nagata. I just always refer to him as Blue Justice because it's just, again, it's his nickname, and I've always referred to him that as that. But because he's like 50 something now, or like late 40s, early 50s, 53 or 54 now, and 30 years in this business. That is huge. But he can, like, again, he's not the Blue Justice of 15, 20 years ago, but the man his wrestling IQ is so good. He's slower, but he's just as good as he ever was. Because he shows why he's so good with the technical ability that he has. But then you have a man like the Great Khan, whose technical wrestling skills are top notch. Because again, amateur wrestler before he got into the pro wrestling business, and I guess got the top of training because being funded by Gideon Grey. But but it was just a beautiful thing to watch, and seeing a legend face off with a young up and coming wrestler. Like, again, he's only a couple years into his main run with New Japan, and to get a position like this is huge, and to get a win over a legend like this is huge.
100%. I mean, Yuji Nagata, he might not be the same Yuji Nagata he was 10 or 15 years ago, but he still kicks like it.
Oh, dude, I could never kick like that. Come on.
Still quick, still good. It doesn't matter what his age is. If you guys don't already follow him on his Twitter or Instagram, highly recommend it. He is very, very positive. He's a very, very happy individual, and always talking about how he's trying so hard every single day. So if you're looking for motivation and you need it, follow Yuji Nagata. With the Great Khan, I've mentioned it before. I mean, he really is one of those adaptable wrestlers who really almost takes the first few minutes of his match to really feel out what's going on, but he always can match who it is that he's fighting. And Yuji Nagata was no different. The first part of their match was just all technical stuff, them rolling around. It was just classic, great technical wrestling. And then, of course, it evolved into the outside. Of course, Okan, vicious as ever. Tactics from Gideon Grey must be. I believe Gideon Grey was also in Okan's corner for this
I think
match.
so.
Yeah, and then, of course, my personal favorite, Kojima Satoshi, was also in Yuji Nagata's corner, along with Nakanishi, his good friend.
Mr. Bread. Mr. Bread.
Yeah. Love those guys. This match was absolutely incredible. I love the biting. Like, it really just showed the desperation of both men in that part of the match where they're like, man, I have had you for how long in this match? Just give up. But again, at the end of it, Yuji Nagata, he might be the Blue Justice, but unfortunately, again, he's not the Blue Justice he was of a decade ago. The younger, more spry, little bit more maybe motivated Great Khan was able to catch that pin on Nagata. But not to take away from Nagata, we had an incredible match. Yes. And despite the loss, I would love to see them go at it again.
I think he needs to be used, like, not regularly, but on a semi-regular basis, in my opinion. Using him on undercard matches and in like small cards to feature somebody like an Okan or somebody else to help really push somebody forward. But after the match, we did get a bunch of wrestlers out. 2% flowers to Yuji Nagata. Satoshi Kojima is one of the men that presented flowers to him, and we actually got a video from Keiji Muto following too, which I don't know what was said because, again, it was all in Japanese. But it's just nice to see a legend like Muto recognizing one of his peers in professional wrestling and to give him a shout out, especially working for another company. Again, like, there's not the rivalry between the companies as much as it was before, but just to see that him reach out and put that video out for Nagata was just wonderful to see.
100%, especially with Muta being in another country right now, also being able to to shout out.
Again, I don't know when it was recorded, but
That's
again,
true,
yeah, he was over in the U.S. dealing with all Elite Wrestling. So yeah, but we're going to move on to night 20 or to night what ended up being night 6 or 5 because 3 nights were missing. But
Yes.
I do want to speak before we get to the match that's on the screen. It's one I don't have a card for, and it was the what was supposed to be a 10-man tag turned out to be an 8-man tag, and it was due to Kushida being out sick. And it was when Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson made the return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't really got too much on the match, but want to ask what's your feelings on Doc Gallows and Yano coming back to New Japan? Or no, sorry, not Yano. Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson returning.
I mean, Carl Anderson can come back anytime, but he could leave that dead weight of Gallows wherever he frickin' found him. I've never been a fan of Gallows from the moment I saw him to now. I just look at Gallows as essentially Festus with a full vocabulary. He's just as dumb now as he was then. I don't find a purpose in the things that he does. And to be honest, I feel like he's like a big dead weight. Just someone who hangs on for dear life to someone in the hopes that they will take their career somewhere. And he has, but at the same time, I feel like Carl Anderson could have done a heck of a lot more with his career if he wasn't dragging around Gallows with him.
It's
That
very
being
possible.
said,
Yeah.
that being said,
I do have a question for you though.
Mm.
Who would you rather watch wrestle, Doc Gallows or the Hickey Man Hikuleo?
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I would rather watch Hikuleo for an hour in an hour-long match than Doc Gallows for 5 minutes.
One more question: what would you have to do if you had Doc Gallows and Hikuleo team up to face Evil and Yujiro? What if you had to watch that match? What would you do?
Wait, sorry, Hikuleo and Gallows against who?
Evil and Yujiro.
When I stopped laughing, I don't think that match is even something that is possible that could happen.
No, but I'm just saying, what would you
throwing things?
God, that would be the fans rioting match. But okay, from here we're going to move on to the match that's on
match. That's a great one.
So we're going to move on to the matches on the screen. It was a tornado dog cage survival match. What it meant is there's 4 cages around the ring. Dog cages where you people put their dogs in when they board them and things like that, or people put a dog in for the night to keep them from destroying their house. And the purpose of this match was essentially either put all of your opponents into dog cages and you win, or pinfall and submission. And there's no disqualification. So this is the perfect match for House of Torture because they just break the rules constantly, and I don't like them. Okay. I do like Show. I just don't like Show as part of this unit. Simple as that.
You know, Show used to have, like, when he was in Chaos, I felt that he was a very, 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 very talented in-ring wrestler. Like, his ability to do the moves was great. But I felt that his facial expressions were just the slightest bit lacking. And I was like, if he can just figure out that right balance between the two, perfect wrestler. He could be that next Kota Ibushi, if you will. Him moving to the House of Torture, though, he took that little suggestion and he like blew it up times a million. And now he's coming out here looking like someone just pinched his bottom and he didn't like it. And he's all wide-eyed and looking around all spastic. He's constantly got his mouth open. He's constantly looking like a blow-up doll. Like, and his bobblehead.
That never crossed into my head.
It hasn't taken away from his ability to perform in ring. He's still a tremendous in-ring performer. But man, the mannerisms in the House of Torture have been taken from hokey to like absolute hokiness.
Even more hokey.
Yeah, he's in a level where it's almost like you are almost to the point where you can't pull this back. And this is just going to be what's expected of you now, which I would not like to see because, again, he is a great in-ring competitor. But, man, the House of Torture is just wrecking things. It's just destroying the wrestling.
Yeah, I don't have too much overall for notes for the match. Again, it was guys beating the crap out of each other with no set rules other than pins and submissions, and throwing in. And if you put your opponent in a dog cage, it didn't even mean they were going to stay there for the rest of the match, because there's a key where you can go and let your teammates out if you can get there, which happened multiple times. And then I think at the end you had Yujiro,
6 times.
Yeah, you had Yoshi-Hashi put into a cage, and then as Sho and Yujiro were trying to put Goto into a cage, Evil goes and shoves all 3 in the cage and locks it. Are you dumb? I thought that was so stupid, because yes, you still have a man advantage because you have Dick Togo there, but you also were taking a risk because Yana was on commentary. So you're still taking a huge risk. So why would you not help them just push Goto in and lock him in? And you just have to deal with Yo at the end. It was just a dumb spot that made no sense. And in the end, Evil hits everything is evil. And the House of Torture has their 6-man titles back. It just,
and actually, in that moment, Dick Togo was actually locked in a kennel in the ring. So even that extra man was out. It was
because when they went back in, Yo then somebody had brought a cage into the ring, and Yo got Togo into the cage when Togo interfered when it was just the 2 of the guys left in the match.
Exactly.
Yo did get him into the cage, and then Evil got the finish. I apologize for missing that, but it's just none of it
make us a sense
was any good. I praised Yoshi-Hashi through the G1. I thought he was wonderful, despite the picture that they got of him for his shot there.
Andre,
but Goto,
that's just his face.
Goto, who is one of the best workers in Japan, bar none, and Yo, who I think is wonderful in ring. I just really didn't like this match. It's I would not recommend it to anybody. This is the main reason we're talking about it, so you don't have to watch this, because it's not worth
save yourself.
Watching.
Yes, I think the only good part for me with this match was the part where Sho actually ended up with the actual tiny little doghouse on his head, and Yo just beat the crap out of his head.
There was some humor there, but again, overall, it was just a bunch of House of Torture crap that I just can't stand any. I just get I'm so over them. But the main event of night 23, or of night 6, or whatever night it is, of September 23rd, it's the DKC, Master Wada, Ryusuke Taguchi, and David Finlay making his return back to New Japan, taking on Francesco Akira, Aaron Henare, TJP, and the man making his return this night is Will Ospreay. And this was an 8-man elimination tag. You can eliminate your opponents by pinfall submission, or, as I had no idea, throwing them over the top rope, as everybody was eliminated that way except for the DKC, who was eliminated via, was it Ultima? He was eliminated by Henare. I think it was with Ultima.
He pinned him,
Or he pinned him with something. And then it pretty much came down to, like, was it Henare was holding Finlay, and then Will Ospreay goes for an Os cutter, but Finlay throws Henare into him to get to eliminate Ospreay. And I'm like, I was like, what? Really? Serious? I was very annoyed by that one. But the finish did come. Henare went for the Rampage. Finlay reversed it, hit Trash Panda, the kneecap brainbuster, if you don't know, and got the win. And the best part of this was getting Finlay on the mic after the match. It was very short, but he goes after the match. He says he will overcome the odds. He says he will win on the 25th, and he said, the best line I have ever heard this man speak says, "Just like your weak ass kidneys, your title reign will die as well." I was like, my jaw dropped listening to that. Wow, like bringing real life into things is always smart, but to make a comment like that to a man who legitimately could have died from a kidney infection, it got very bad. That is amazing. Like my jaw dropped when I heard him say that.
Now, remembering their interaction and their interview before their U.S. title match, was that before or after Will Ospreay had made the comments about the disparaging comments? Yeah, about
no, because I think on the 24th, on the 24th they then have a press conference, and Ospreay starts talking shit about Finley's dad, a true bona fide legend in his business. You shouldn't be talking shit about, for one.
Yeah,
and so Finley threw a chair in his face.
We saw how that ended up in that main event. But talking about this match, with these guys, there was that one part of the eliminations where they was just one right after the other really, really quickly, where Akira eliminates Wado, Taguchi eliminates TJP, Hinari eliminates Taguchi. They were very, very quick succession. Up until that point, we hadn't really had a whole lot of eliminations happening. It was kind of like a really, really good match. There's one thing I do want to complain about here in regards to the teams, and that is I enjoy that David Finlay was able to get this win over top of the United Empire. What I don't like is that the DKC technically gets that win also. As far as I'm concerned, any kind of young lion needs to be held to the same cloth as any other young lion. If this was Fujita, if this was Uiwa, if this was Nakashima, they would have been taking the loss. And where DKC was technically eliminated, he still gets the W in the book with his team.
I call it a W with an asterisk. That's it. It's a W with an asterisk. He did not get the final.
The only time this has happened with him. He has also picked up wins against people who are not considered young lions in Strong.
Yes, but to that point, he was not part of the dojo system. He was an active professional wrestler.
No, this is after.
The dojo. Okay, but I'm just saying, on New Japan Strong, he did get wins. That was before he joined the dojo itself. I don't know. I remember if it's since he joined the dojo, but I'm just saying he had wins for it. So to the point is, I said this. I was happy to see DKC in the getting a main event spot, because I think this guy can be I watched him in the ring. I'm really impressed by this man. So I'm happy he got a win here. I'm happy he got featured more than a regular young lion would. That's, I guess, where you and me differ on that. But
yes, I strongly disagree with that. I think that he is still considered a LA boy. He's still a young lion, and he should be held to the same cloth as the other young lions. If the other young lions wouldn't have gotten this win, he shouldn't either. And I feel that kind of comes from a little bit more of the sheltering of Shibata, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look at the stars that he has pumped out. You got Alex Coughlin, you got Clark Connors, you had Carl Fredericks. They all came from the had for Carl Fredericks. They all came from that dojo system, and we've seen Clark Connors be very successful. We haven't seen Alex Coughlin not injured yet, but
he was supposed to be on this tour. DKC took his place, so. The fact is, Alex Coughlin probably would have been in this spot. So I think that is the other thing, is DKC was the replacement for Alex Coughlin. So I think the plan was to have Alex Coughlin, who again has graduated from being a young lion, to be in this spot. So I think it was just a matter of, okay, we had Coughlin here, let's just plug DKC in because he is the replacement. I think that is the reason that his win happened, because I think it was supposed to be Alex Coughlin's spot. It might, because what happened and where DKC got eliminated would have been the perfect spot for a guy like Alex Coughlin. So it's just that's where I see why DKC is where it is in this spot in this match.
That being said, though, also DKC submitted Fujita right at the beginning of this tour, also, which different kind of
young lion though.
Young lion. That's the only time that we should see a young lion.
I get you. I get you. I get you. I 100% understand that. It's just
I think it's also because I don't really like DKC. I think his chops are stupid.
again, I have opinions on a lot of people in this business, Chops, but I don't have that big of issue. But we are going to move on to the final night of the Burning Spirit Tour. We are going to run through the whole card. We are going to be quick on some of the matches because, again, certain ones versus other ones not really need to go through too much.
Yeah.
But we're going. This opening card was Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Bushi, who's on Mel's shoulders right now, taking on the team of Kenta, El Phantasmo, and the Hickey Man. Hickey Leo. I like to call him the Hickey Man, but yeah. I thought, honestly, decent opening match. I have really no complaints about it. Shingo catching was the crossbody by El Phantasmo, just catches him, tosses him up, DVD. Just beautiful flow through from a guy like Shingo Takagi, who's as good as he is. And the finish of the match did come with Shingo getting the how did I write that? I think Chris Charlton called it the Grand Cobra, where he gets he hooks the legs and pulls the guy back, like with it, and it's a pinfall. Chris Charlton called it. I think he called it the Grand Cobra. So Shingo Takagi did get the win over El Phantasmo with the Grand Cobra, but it's the post match, setting us to what will come at Declaration of Power. It's Shingo Takagi puts El Phantasmo over his knee and starts spanking him.
Gives him the spanking he deserves.
Again, same thing I said before. It's bringing this KOPW title. It's regressing it again. Again, like I said, I thought Shingo and Taichi did great things to step up the KOPW Provisional Championship. This feud is regressing it, in my personal opinion. Two great wrestlers are wrestling for it. But it's a stupid-ass feud with a stupid-ass gimmick. So that's the hardest part about me. What about you with this one?
I mean, Shingo is a personal favorite of mine. So, I'm not that kind of fan who's my favorite can do no wrong. But I am enjoying seeing this kind of goofy side of Shingo, who has been so serious and so powerful since he arrived in New Japan. I do agree to a point that it does almost degrade the title a bit. It did have its humble beginnings with Yano, and Yano putting that stupid shirt on it for a while there. But I do feel that Shingo and Chase Losley and Taichi have really added a level of seriousness to it while still having that kind of almost goofy angle on it. You remember Shingo and him doing the actual hit, like the ring hit. So however many.
But again, that was a very. I thought it actually was a very competitive style match,
exactly.
so that worked. But this is I just feel like this is Yano comedy with two very good wrestlers. So that's where it bothers me. But yeah, so we're gonna move.
ELP though, ELP has always been this kind of hokey character, but
his in-ring is so good. That's why I'm mad about it.
It would be nice to see him serious it up a little bit for the fact that he is wrestling Shingo.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to the second and worst match of the night, in my opinion.
I would like to put this match up for worst match of the year period for New Japan, because this was worse than any House of Torture match I've ever watched.
Legitimately, I would sit down and watch a House of Torture match over. I wouldn't watch I don't know if I'd watch an Evil singles match. It's really hard.
I was going to say, we got this on camera, Andre.
I don't know. But I'd rather watch a House of Torture match over watching these two specific people wrestle each other. I don't like it. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Doc Gallows as it is. I liked him better way back before. I liked his run with Carl before they left for WWE when they were there earlier on. The character he plays now sucks. I know his in-ring ability is actually pretty darn good because I've seen him have good matches. It's just the crap with Yano. And again, I don't hate Yano. I think he's a good competitor. He's good. It's all the crap, stupid stuff. Again, I know it breaks it up for a lot of people, but it's just a mix of these two just angers me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I told you before this started, the two notes I had for this was double count out and waste of my time. They really could have done something better in this. But it was mercifully short. It could have been more mercifully short. It could have, not happened at all.
Not happened? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. This was one of those matches where it's like we would recommend you to watch the House of Torture.
It was short. It wasn't that. It was like 4 or 5 minutes, I think. So it wasn't long.
Mm-hmm.
If you have it on, you have to sit through it for a few minutes. It's not the worst thing in the world. It is one of the worst things I've watched this year in professional wrestling.
Mm.
But if you have to sit through it, do it. If you want to fast forward, it's fine. You're missing nothing, because it was a nothing finish of 2 guys getting counted out because they were fighting on the ramp, and then they fought to the back. That is literally everything I can tell you on this match that even
them
slightly matters.
The back was the best part of it, because we didn't have to see them anymore.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the third match of the evening. It is the Rogue General, Bad Luck Fale, and the Crown Jewel Chase Owen taking on the United Empires, Jeff Cobb and the Great O-Khan. Again, I spoke at length about my opinions on Fale during the last couple episodes of New Japan Pro Wrestling Review. Again, he's not as bad in here because he's not having to be the entire match. But with these 3 men he's in the ring with, and I see it. It's in my notes. Fale looks very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Cobb, for as big as he is, moves quickly. O-Khan, for as big as he is, moves pretty darn quickly. Chase Owens, again, not a cruiserweight or not a junior heavyweight or anything, but he moves pretty dang quick, because it just he looks slower than everybody else. He looks a little bit behind the pace, and that's my biggest thing with Fale. Is like it's not like he's bad in this match, but I'm glad this is where he's going to be, is in tags, and this is where he should be kept, is tags, things like that. I know there's going to be a show in November in New Zealand, which he will be one of the feature acts for, but that's again because he's bringing New Japan to New Zealand, and we're probably getting a singles match with him there. I will watch it out of respect for what they're doing there, and I'll be watching that show because I want to see Tony Gozina, but this was a fine match. There's nothing wrong with this match. I think they did a good job. The one thing is the General's Jewel, Fale and Owens, they have this rocket launcher type move.
Yes.
And it literally just looked like Fale just kind of touched Chase as Chase jumped off the top rope to do an elbow, essentially a rocket launcher into an elbow. It was not even that great of an elbow, and I've seen that style of move done way better by other teams in the past, and it was rough to watch. Finish came where O-Khan got Chase onto his shoulders, Cobb got Chase onto his shoulders, and O-Khan hit the cutter for what they call the Imperial Drop, and O-Khan pinned Chase for the win. Again, a good solid match. Again, it was like 6, 7, 8 minutes. It wasn't not long. It's just I'm finding after especially watching a lot of Stardom, I appreciate the solar matches in New Japan now, because it makes for an easier undercard. So I'll say that 100%. But again, decent match. I was underwhelmed. I did put in my notes dumbly. Surprised Gideon never got involved, and then I realized in my head after I wrote it, but it's in there. The UE doesn't do that, so I don't know why I wrote that.
There are certain points where you could see that them getting involved would be beneficial. I don't know. I know that they're a heel faction, but it's obvious that they're not going for that kind of heel aspect within their faction. And to be honest, I appreciate it because it shows that they're confident in not only their own abilities, but in their teammates' abilities. We always got to shout out the Tongan massage parlor move. That's my favorite thing.
That's one of the only real highlights of Fale's moveset that I enjoy anymore. Is that's funny.
And then, of course, you have the Jeff Cobb's kind of almost comparison in the surfboard where he's having fun.
Even Fale did it. Like because I think Fale did it to O-Khan. Then he tried to do it to Jeff, and he gets up there and he goes like this and goes to step on to Jeff. Jeff rolls. So he goes step on to Jeff again. Jeff rolls the other way. And it happened like 2 or 3 times. And it was a funny little spot because, and again, those are the things I appreciate out of Fale because in this situation, it works. But when you're in G1, it does not.
Nope.
Yeah. Anything else on this match, Mel?
No, I think this one, I feel pretty much the same way as you do on this one.
All right, so we're going to move on to the 4th match of the evening, and it is a tag match between Tetsuya Naito and Sanada taking on Sabre and Taichi. Again, we talked about a lot of what happened between these two teams earlier on when we were talking about the feuds leading up, but I just love the continuation of the feud in the precursor to the culmination of the feud in this, because this is the last match they'll have together before Royal Quest 2 Night 2, or I think they're going to be in a tag match on Night 1, but it just the culmination of the feud during the Burning Spirit Tour. I think just a great match between both these two teams. Like Sabre, I will honestly say, best technical wrestler existing in this world today. I don't think there's anybody better, and I know people will yell at me because their opinions on Bryan Danielson. I think Sabre's better, but just Naito, I will always appreciate just the little things he does when he hits a move and then then he talks Spanish to a person, not even Japanese. He'll make some Spanish comment and it'll confuse even a guy like Taichi, who those are the little things because it confuses most guys if they don't know Spanish. So it's those small little things from Naito, or a face he'll make, or this kind of just a look he'll give you. He'll just kind of give you like sort of a rock. He turns and his eyebrow goes up, but it doesn't go up, but he'll kind of go up, and how his one eyebrow will raise a little bit. And it's just those little things is why he is such a phenomenal character.
Absolutely. Naito is arguably one of my favorites in New Japan Pro, and his subtle mind messery that he does when he's feuding with somebody. He really likes to get into your head and mess around. And at the same time, he's still able to keep it on a fairly serious plane. And it's actually been very interesting, as we had mentioned earlier, to watch these two particular feuds kind of evolve with each other, where Zack Sabre Jr. and Naito have kind of been a little bit more jokey but aggressive with each other, grabbing the ears, trying to put each other in submissions, whereas Sanada and Taichi have just kind of been doing the peck dance and doing push-ups and exchanging masks and stuff like this, as we saw at the end of this one, which was a fun little picture I'll have to find.
Yeah, you got to put that in. That's got to be. Hopefully, that's showing right now. But I really found that picture quite humorous, or that look of just one's wearing the other's mask. But they like you said, that was post-match. The ending did come. Taichi goes to try to rip his pants off, but Sanada gets him, tries to do the German suplex into the rollback pin, and Taichi reversed it into a Gato clutch, and then rips his pants off partway off to kind of help hook the pins tighter. I don't know how it helped, but according to Chris Charlton, it did. And he got the Gato clutch for the win. I just found it very humorous to see that happen. And the fact that Chris Charlton was so saying, no, him using the pants, it helped tighten up the pin. I'm like, I didn't see the physics on how that happened.
Well, trust me, Chris.
I'm going to trust Chris Charlton because that man has not lost my trust yet. So.
And between Chris and Kevin, they do a tremendous job in filling in any kind of gaps and anything that we as fans might be missing, sometimes without us even having to mention it. There's been times where I've been like, what does that mean? And Chris will be like, that means this. And it's like, oh, thanks, Professor Chris.
That's the best thing about Chris Charlton. He fills in the field. But post-match, there was one comment by Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly goes, why don't they just become teammates already? And then Chris just goes, well, why don't they just kiss already? About Taichi and Sanada. With
Chris is just like that.
I absolutely loved it. I just laughed. I laughed at it. I was just like, oh, it's just so good.
Oh, Chris.
Good. But then post-match, Zack and Naito got back into their faces and they're grabbing at each other's ears. Then the ref broke them up and they just both turned to the ref and they both grabbed the ref's ear. ear, like both
Wasn't that
each one grabbed an ear.
Kenta?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was just funny that they were just doing the ear thing on the rest, then go back to doing the ear thing on each other. It was just, it was humorous.
Sounds
I'll
like
say
something
that.
Kenta Sato would allow himself to be put through.
Very possible.
Marty Asani is the full bumper.
Yeah. So from here, we're going to move on to the next match evening. And again, this is another one where we're not going to get too much into it because if you watch this tour a lot, this combination was happened a few times, but again, it's building the Jonah and Okada feud for October 10th, a Declaration of Power. I think it's October 10th, a Declaration of Power in a couple weeks, and I think just watching how good and how much of a beast that Jonah is becoming, like we said earlier, has been phenomenal, and giving a great platform to guys like Big Teats and Shane Hayes. I think is just, I've really, really enjoyed this combination of men. Okada's had multiple partners in these between Tanahashi and Yano, and then Makabe and Hanma, and I think Hanma, especially to me in this match, looked really good, especially man coming back from a serious neck injury and not really changing his style that much. I just really, there's like a couple spots. One of them I really found humorous was he runs at a guy, but instead of like shoulder checking them, he does the Kokeshi. He runs the head and he does the Kokeshi. Yeah, like I think Chris called it a rocket Kokeshi.
Oh,
because he runs and like spears the head in instead of using the shoulder. He calls it the rocket Kokeshi, at least in the English, from the English commentary. But I just really quite enjoyed seeing how they're building towards, like we said earlier, it's building very, very well. End of it though came with Jonah scoop slamming Hanma and getting the top rope torpedo splash and getting the 3 count for the win. And just to see the dominance of how Jonah has done in here and impressing so many different people, I think this man, there's always a possibility when he's done this little run with New Japan that he heads back to the WWE with Shawn Michaels and Triple H in charge now. But I really hope he doesn't, because I really want to see a true evolution in this guy and see what maybe going after a world championship could do.
I agree. I definitely wrote down for this match, this was a TMDK showcase match. With that, not to take away again from Makabe or Hanma, and to just kind of build on what you said, every time I see Hanma, I just go, God bless him for showing up at the age he is. I mean, he's in his mid-40s now. He's a new dad, and he is such an adoring father, always posting pictures of the things that him and his child are doing. I can't imagine, though, that his daughter must be, just used to the scary voice by now with his crushed larynx. But man, he shows up mid-40s. He's got a better build than most 20-somethings I know. And he just
except for maybe Taiji Ishimori and Jay White
on that
or Tama Tonga. I think those are the only 3 that got probably a better build right now than Hanma.
And it would be hard pressed, because you can see how much effort Hanma clearly puts into his build and keeping in shape. He was actually one of the 3 guys, including Yuji Nagata and Tenzan during COVID, who were also doing those kind of fitness videos through New Japan to kind of help keep all of the, the fans excited about wanting to work out and stuff. So, I just love Hanma. He's one of those people where I don't care how many losses he takes. Please never retire. We need Hanma. He's one of those guys who needs to be forever in Japan.
He's a guy I want to see forever until his body can't handle anymore. Because with the neck injury he had, that neck's eventually going to wear down. I don't want him staying around too long, so he keeps hurting himself if he re-hurting himself. But I love seeing him. I at one point could not stand Hanma and Makabe. I really disliked them when they were in their tag title run, and
great real mesh
thing like that, like when they were winning the championships and things like that. I really was unhappy about that. but I really, really, really love seeing him now as that veteran presence. So yeah. So we're going to move on to the next match of the night, and that is with my wonderful graphic skills, as you can see. It was supposed to be Kushida. It was supposed to be Kushida and Tama Tonga taking on Jay White and Taiji Ishimori, but Kushida getting hand and foot disease a few days prior did bring Jado into this match. And honestly, again, this is building one of the, I think, is going to be an incredible title match on October the 10th at Declaration of Power. But I thought this match was very, very good. The one spot that Kevin Kelly called Taiji Ishimori a muscle chihuahua, I thought that was wonderful. But just Jado, I think someone doing some of the best work of his entire career. Again, I've seen odd stuff from the 90s, but I think he, as long as he's been around, I think he's doing great work, him and Tama, and I think has helped raise Tama's game in such a way. But Jay White is just the best heel. He's the best heel. There's no matching that.
I agree. I've been saying it since he became the Switchblade, came back and joined Bullet Club. I was like, this guy is unmatched in his just psychology of how to mess with people. He is unmatched on the mic. He is unmatched with his ego and attitude that he projects to us to make us feel, a certain way and react a certain way that we do to him. He is one of the best heels, if not arguably the best heel in the world right now in professional wrestling. And his feud with Tama going from being almost like Jay White, being that extreme bad guy, to now being that really good guy. I mean, you've seen with Tanahashi over the last little while, him joining Hantai with his brother, who's, out on injury, speedy recovery, come back soon. And Jackdo here, the three of them have really taken their departure from Bullet Club and just elevated themselves. And I agree with you. I think Jackdo is a huge, huge reason for that, because he's now jacked. Like, look at the guy.
If you had told me 1 year ago that Tama Tonga would be challenging for the world championship, I would have laughed in your face. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe a never title or a U.S. title. He's not going to be at a world title level. I am buying in on this guy being in the top echelon. But the thing is, he's 39 years old. He does not look like he's 39 years old. This man is 39 years old, and he is doing, I think he's having the best run of his career so far. And I think he has plenty of career in front of him, even at the age of 39. But I look forward so much to watching Declaration of Power and just being so happy about what happens on that show, if it happens the way I want it to.
And that's what it comes down to, right?
Simple as that. So we're going to move on to the first of three title matches of the evening. Is Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato taking on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions NTJP and Francisco Akira. So there's a lot of stuff happened in this match, right? I'm not going to go through everything because I have a crazy long list of stuff that happened in here. There's some great highlights. Was it Wato hitting this incredibly high angle German suplex on Francisco Akira? He literally lifts him, and like he has his entire body up in the air over his head before bringing him down, spiking him on right on the upper back neck area. Oh my God, did that look painful as heck?
Rough.
Early on in the match, Taguchi was doing his hip butt wash thing in the corner.
Oh yes, his hip toss.
He goes to run, but TJP was it he went for the running butt wash. Akira ended up hitting just a drop kick out of nowhere when TJP moved. It just the athleticism from all of these men. And as you watch it and the way they're talking, they're very much telling a story of two different teachers teaching two different students. Because if you look at TJP, he's 37 years old, but he's been wrestling since he was like 13 or 14. And he's taken this 22-year-old or 22-year-old kid under his wing. And this is the same thing for Taguchi and Wato. I think they've just told a wonderful story in that sense. But and then it just so many crazy things happened in this match. The finish came when the Emperor members, they ended up hitting a version of the Motor City Machine Gun Skull and Bones, but instead of a neck breaker, it was like an inverted DDT. And then TJP got Taguchi up on the shoulders. They hit the leaning tower, which is the cutter off the shoulders, and the United Empire retains their championships.
I really do like that finisher that they do, especially when you can line it up and get them both doing the crown pose for it. I absolutely love and appreciate how much they're marketing themselves like that. And I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but this was when TJP and Akira actually got new gear for this tour with all the tassels and stuff that kind of matched more with the United Empire kind of feel.
So Akira's gear is literally a version of Ospreay's old gear. Because if you look at the not tassels, but the pieces that hang around his belt area, that's exactly what Ospreay wore years ago. So I love the fact that he is literally being built as a new Will Ospreay.
It's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because I had actually recorded, there was a part in that match where Akira went to go do a drop kick, or sorry, I don't think he was intending to do a drop kick, but Taguchi swept his legs and he ended up drop kicking TJP instead of attacking Taguchi. And I sent that video to somebody and they were like, "Oh, that was a great Will Ospreay move." Well, that wasn't Will Ospreay. That was Francesco Akira.
but it was. If you've seen Will Ospreay back then, he was doing things pretty much exactly the same. So Francesco Akira, I think, truly is modeling himself after Will Ospreay, and I think that is a great thing that he is doing, and he's doing it He's doing it a few years earlier too, where he's getting into New Japan at 22, where Ospreay didn't get in until his mid a little bit later in his 20, like a little bit later, because he didn't come in until it was 2016. Yeah, he's what, 30, 31 somewhere now.
I think
so he got in there. He was a couple years old or something of that point than Francisco Akira. So again, he got in here younger, and he's modeling himself. He could be the next Will Ospreay, 100%.
But of course, the United Empire retaining their titles after this. Gotta appreciate that.
Huge thing. So far, United Empire 2 for 2 on the night so far. So we move on to our semi-main event of the evening. It is for the Never Openweight Championship. You have Hiroshi Tanahashi challenging the man whose only match so far in New Japan proper was when he won the Never Openweight Championship back in June. Is Carl Anderson. This is his first defense and his first singles match in New Japan since he won the title, which was his return match to New Japan proper. And it's only his second singles match, which was, I guess, the tag match the night before was his first match, was his second match. But again, this is his first title defense. Honestly, I quite enjoyed this match outside of the interference from Doc Gallows and the other stuff from Yano being there, that they continued what they were doing there. Like, I just, some of the stuff, Carl Anderson going for a stun gun and Tanahashi blocking and hitting his sling blade out of it. I think beautiful work. Because again, these two have been worked together years and years and years ago. So they know each other. They know they can work well with each other. Some of the knees had been really been worked on by Tanahashi, and Carl runs and jumps up, hit this like rocket kick in the corner, and comes down and just starts grabbing his knees. Like, just a beautiful selling job from Carl Anderson for one, with the selling of the knees. But like, there's some great highlights in there, and just I really thought it was a great job by both these men in this match. It's just, I think it's overshadowed by the post match and the big things coming for it. But I think both men did a great job. there was a spot where Tanahashi got aces high. They went for his high fly flow. And with the injured knees, Carl put his knees up, and he's just writhing in pain after because his knees are already hurt, and he just took the high fly flow into his knees, but it hurt Tanahashi, and I think was great. So Tanahashi goes off the ropes. Doc Gallows grabbed the foot after he had dispatched with Toru Yano. And then as Tanahashi got free of Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson goes for the gun stun. Tanahashi stops. It goes for something. Carl stopped that because I don't know what the move was because he didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And Carl Anderson got the gun stun, got the 1, 2, 3, and Carl Anderson retains the Never Openweight Championship. Anything on the mat? More on the mat? Anything on the match before we get to the post match?
The one thing that I did note that I said Anderson did just picture perfectly was his spine buster.
Arn Anderson style.
Mm-hmm. It was very strong. It was very assertive. It was very dominant. So much so that I just wrote Anderson spine buster. That's literally all I wrote. So other than that, it was just moving on to the fun stuff that happened after, because that's some conflict for me.
So post match, you had Doc Gallows throw Yano into the ring, and Carl and Doc proceeded to keep beating down on Tana and Yano a bit, and then coming down to the ring, Jay White and Gato, they came in. Jay White's like, whoa, 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 and then they all attacked again like hyenas until Tama Tonga runs out, takes out Carl, knocks him to the outside, takes out Doc Gallows, knocks him to the outside, and knocks down Jay White, and he has Jay White against the ropes, threatening to attack him as he goes. He's mad, very, very mad at this man, until the Hickey man, Hikuleo, comes out, gets into the ring, and Jay White is just so happy at this point because he's got his muscle back. He's got his muscle here to protect him. So he gets behind him, and he says, here's it. He says, you're not his family. I'm his family. And that's when Hikuleo grabs Jay White by the throat, starts choking him. And you can see just the eyes bulging out of Jay White. That man's facials are amazing. Anybody who says Jay White's not one of the best guys going in this business is wrong.
Check yourself.
The facials, just the eyes, the way how open his eyes were, and he was just scared, and then just hucks him towards Tama Tonga, and Tama Tonga hits the gun stun on Jay White, and both men just stare at each other, and they finally hug. Tama's got his little brother back. I think was just utter poetic perfection for the story they built with Hikuleo abandoning his brothers. I think just again, I know you're not the biggest fan of Hikuleo, but I thought it was a perfect cherry on top to what just the match that just happened and the storyline that they've built. And then Tom proceeded to pick up both the World Heavyweight the NJPW World Heavyweight Championship and the Never Openweight title and handed it to Hikuleo. So are we going to get Hikuleo versus Machine Gun Carl Anderson? That's the real question.
Yeah. See, here's how I feel about this. This is why I am.
I knew that was coming.
I am conflicted on this because I don't feel that Hikuleo without his brothers in Bullet Club fit. His attitude, sure, but knowing that he was the little brother of God and that they were doing really nothing with that, and that he was still kind of there. To me, I was like, I don't know. And I didn't think he was kind of fit there. And I definitely felt that he would probably learn how to work a little bit better from his brothers and working with his brothers than as opposed to maybe trying to work with someone like Ishimori Taiji, which is like you would need two of him stacked on top of each other to be the same height as Hikuleo.
Yeah, they were literally lifting Taiji up to do a 2-sweet in one of their matches. So.
Yeah, he's so aspire to be like Ishimori and being lifted up by your buddies. But
thanks for almost making it.
But on the other hand, I look at the idea that they want to give Hickey an actual, not even a tag match, a singles match, I say give it to Great Khan first. They both, I bring this up to anyone who will listen, they both spent the same amount of time in the same place for the same purpose. One of them came back undefeated and main evented with Hiroshi Tanahashi for the US title. When they came back, the other one was sent to LA to still kind of work on his ish. To me, I don't think that Hikuleo quite deserves to be in the singles title picture right now. He has the opportunity, I think, to work with his brothers maybe towards that 3-man over Never Open title. But I don't think that he should be coming in and getting a Never Open weight title shot right away just because Thomas says so.
I think Thomas graduated to a point that he shouldn't be in a 6-man title situation where with Hikuleo back with him, I think it'd be a perfect. I think that not to shit on Tanga Loa anybody. I think that's a perfect spot for Tanga Loa, Hikuleo, and Jado. I think that is, and then you can have Tama continuing to be that in the main event presence.
Have God severage from Hontai a little bit and be their own faction.
Could be. They just be God. Simple as that. They get back to their faction, God, and you may have ties to what I can't remember. I can never say that. Hontai. I always think of another word when I hear that word.
Wrong.
And not in a good way. Not in a good way. It's too close in my personal opinion. But it's just. I think there's a future there for Hikuleo. I just think he needs more seasoning. Like you said, I don't dislike him as much as you do, but I think he does need more work. I will agree on that one.
At least he stopped falling over his feet like a newborn foal.
I will say this. I watched him all through this tour. I think he's done a good job. I think he's improved pretty well, just not quite there yet.
Based on his Rev Pro stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So we are moving on to the main event of the evening, the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. David Finlay taking on my favorite wrestler in the world, Will Ospreay, baby. And
how many times have we thrown up this crown for this? Shout out Will Ospreay. Let us join.
I love Will Ospreay, but there is so much to this match. How do I say this without sounding like a jerk here? I'm not going to go over as much as we usually do in a match of this. I'm going to give you a couple of the highlights. But that's about it, because this is a match you need to watch to truly appreciate. This is in my top 10 matches of the year. I think I never thought I'd say that about David Finlay in my top. Yes, David Finlay entered into some of my top matches of the G1. But he's entered into one of my top 10 matches of the entire year, including the rest of New Japan's year, including AEW. So, including Stardom. This match, I thought, was pure fire. Just pure burning fire. Oh my God.
Appropriate given the name of the tour.
The burnings. That's why I said it. But I'm just going to give you a couple highlights here. There was a spot where Ospreay was smashing Ospreay was smashing Finlay's face into the table, and then Finlay all of a sudden just pulls out a shillelagh and smashes the hand of Ospreay, damaging his hand. He says, "My hand is broken, my fingers are broken." At one point, maybe a few minutes later, he's over on the side of the ring after he put down Finlay, and Jeff Cobb walks over, and he kind of blocks the camera, and all you see is his arm tweak while he has Will Ospreay's hand, and it's like putting the finger back into place, and all you hear is Ospreay yell in pain. But just the selling of the hand in all of that was just crazy. There's a spot where where Ospreay was trying to suplex David Finlay onto two tables at ringside. And so he flips over, does a sunset bomb to the floor, catches it, but Finlay holds on. And so he does that perfect flip, and then he just pulls him off and apron bombs him. But it's just insanity. And then they ended up on the apron by the tables at one point, and Ospreay goes for what I think it was goes for his Oz cutter, but gets caught. And Finlay half and half suplexes him onto the apron, then proceeds to hit an acid drop, which is run up the corner cutter off the apron, supposed to be through the tables, but they just landed square onto those Japanese tables, which don't like to break. Then he proceeds to powerbomb Ospreay through the tables. And then there's so many big spots. Ospreay hitting his Sky Twister. There was Ospreay going for a Oz cutter, and Finlay turned it into a stunner. He did a suplex into his stunner. Like, both of these men had such a phenomenal match. It was like 24, 25 minutes, somewhere around there. I thought it was phenomenal. But the finish came. Where is it? Sorry. Nope. I do not have that page yet. I took a bunch of notes for this match and for the post match. Ospreay got a hook kick, goes and hits power, only gets a 2. Oscutter, that's where the Oscutter was then reversed into a stunner. Then he gets a super Oscutter off the top. It goes for a Stormbreaker, but it hits a pedigree. Like, just okay.
Random.
it's just, and then another hidden blade gets him up, hits a Stormbreaker, and he finishes it. And just utter perfection of a match. Perfect way to cap off the tour. Perfect way to cap off the night. I think these two just had one of the best matches I've seen all year, and I've seen some hell of a good matches. We talked about a couple of them just the last show from the finals from the G1. It's just been kind of amazing. So, your opinion on the match before we get to what was an eventful post match.
Oh man, see that you pretty much touched on a lot of the stuff that I actually was really interested in. The only thing you didn't bring up was that amazing table spot where Will Ospreay almost just hovered that table into the air and almost mind tossed it into Finlay's face. That was
early. That was like only like a few minutes in.
I feel like that was a receipt for the chair shot at the mentioned interview.
even Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly mentioned that too. That was potentially a receipt. Yeah.
I will say this for Will Ospreay's fingers. I mean, you could tell that something was definitely done. When you watch the footage back, you can see it landed straight on the top of his hand. It did not miss. He did not hit the table. He hit his hand. As someone who does do recreational pole dancing, I actually dislocate my fingers quite regularly if you don't stretch properly and anything on that. I can tell you, popping that stuff back in, it doesn't matter how often it happens, it hurts. Every single time. I have the same thing with my shoulder. Shoulder pops out. It hurts a lot to put back in. So Will Ospreay writhing in pain, anyone saying he is, being a little bitch, how about we dislocate your fingers? We'll see who's being a bitch.
Yeah, so like I thought, one of the best matches I've watched. We do it injustice describing it ourselves because it is so much better watching it. Like I never thought I would say David Finlay is in my top 10 matches of the year. He is, but I have been so impressed by David Finlay these last couple months with his run in the G1 and doing this. I am all in on David Finlay. Like.
So that being said, I think we have come to the end of our obnoxiously long.
Sorry about that. We just had a lot to talk about.
Puroresu review. If you are interested in watching NJPW, you can go to their website, www.njpw-world.com. We'll leave the link in the description box below. The cost is going to be the same as the Stardom one, so it's 920 yen. Depending on where you are, your dollar will change.
$10 in Canada or
yeah,
US.
I'm paying $10 a month for NJPW. I find it worth it. It gives me access to all of their old stuff as well as some new stuff and CMLL, so you don't want to miss out on that.
So I want to give a big shout out to our friends at Backbreaker Media, Mike the Rep. You can check him out up here at Backbreaker Video on YouTube. Down here on Twitch, where he live streams multiple times a week at Mike the Ref. You could be watching us on our Andre and Melba Wrestling Talk, or maybe you're watching us on Backer Week Video. Either way, we are thankful for you to checking this out. You can check us out here, Andre and Melba Wrestling Talk. You can see our Twitters and our Instagrams down below. Our Twitch isn't quite up and running yet. We have that channel, but it isn't quite running yet. And
that being said, also, we are going to be back again next week for our next episode of the Stardom Grand Prix review, where we're going to finally break down the finals. I've been watching one of the last nights. Man, this last show has been incredible so far. You guys don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we have come to the conclusion here. I am your Melville. That is your Andre. Adios.